sometimes, what's wrong with me? Why am I feeling like this? Shouldn't I be doing better? And one of the things I say to them is that lonely is the equivalent of hungry. When you're hungry, it's because you have a need that hasn't been fed. You wouldn't say, what's wrong with me? My stomach hurts, if you haven't.
You're listening to TNCRadio.live, Houston, Texas. This station is owned and operated by IMSICO LLC, a privately held Texas corporation.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
More than 7,000 nurses at hospitals in New York City began a strike over contracts Monday as some picketed outside the hospitals where they work.
The nursing union has received backing in the strike from city and state officials, including New York Attorney General Letitia James, Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine, and Council Member Gail Brewer, according to a news release. Torvi Rodriguez reporting.
Only the Great Recession in the mid-2000s and the COVID-triggered contraction in 2020 will rival the downturn expected this year, the World Bank said Tuesday.
The World Bank joined the chorus of voices fretting over the potential for a global recession in 2023. Kristalina Georgieva, the head of the International Monetary Fund, started the new year off by suggesting 1/3 of the world's economies will enter into recession this year, with the European economies suffering the worst. Harry Michaels reporting.
The Department of Justice has launched a preliminary review into classified documents found at the University of Pennsylvania's Penn Biden Center in Washington, D.C., sources stated.
In a statement, an attorney for President Joe Biden said his team first flagged the materials to both DOJ and the National Archives and Record Administration. The documents were found by Biden's personal attorneys while they were packing files housed in a locked closet to prepare to vacate office space. Davis Richards reporting.
Dangerously stormy weather continues to wallop California, drenching the drought-stricken state with sudden, near, and constant onslaught of rain and snow, leaving a trail of destruction.
The National Weather Service has warned of a relentless parade of atmospheric rivers in the West Coast over the coming week. President Joe Biden has issued an emergency declaration for California, while local authorities have ordered thousands of residents to evacuate. Michael Varner reporting.
This is the latest news headlines. Bill safety Damar Hamlin is now at a Buffalo hospital, having been released from the medical facility where he stayed 7 days after his heart stopped and he had to be resuscitated on the field during an NFL game, Dr. A. Knight said Monday during a video news conference. Knight, a doctor at UC Medical Center in Cincinnati, said Hamlin was released to a healthcare team from Buffalo after his condition was upgraded from critical to good or fair. Hamlin flew back to Buffalo on Monday morning, the doctor said. More schools across the United States are putting mask mandates in place as COVID-19 cases continue to rise. Before winter break, districts in New Jersey and Pennsylvania announced they would temporarily be requiring masks among students and staff members amid a surge of respiratory illnesses. Now, schools in Massachusetts and Michigan are following suit, while Chicago schools are asking students to take rapid tests before classes start. A recently discovered comet will soon make an appearance in the night sky for the first time in 50,000 years. Discovered on March 2, 2022 by astronomers using the Zwicky Transient Facility's Wide Field Survey camera at the Palomar Observatory in San Diego County, California. The comet will make its closest approach to the sun on January 12th, according to NASA. Victoria Lee, one of the brightest new stars in mixed martial arts, MMA, has died at the age of 18, her sister confirmed. Lee was born and raised in Hawaii and had started rising through the ranks in the sport. She put fighting in the back burner last year as she focused on graduating from high school. In her Instagram post, her sister Angela said Victoria had died on December 26, but did not say how. And that's the latest news headlines. I'm Alan Edwards.
You're listening to TNCRadio.live. Remember to tune in to the Truckers Network radio show with Shelley Johnson weekdays at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern.
This is TNCRadio.live.
Welcome in, TNC Radio.live. We're live on a Wednesday night, and this is Taillights with Larry and Angie Baum.
Welcome back, everybody. I am Angie. Larry is sleeping tonight because we've got a long drive ahead of us. But we have got a great guest with us tonight. So whether you're a trucker or you're a pet lover, you're going to love our guest tonight. Ronald, I want to welcome you to the show. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
So, Ronald, I figure I'd give you just a few minutes at the beginning of the show. Just kind of tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you got into the trucking industry.
Well, trucking for me is my second career. I, out of high school, growing up in Chicago, worked in the car business as a mechanic and then a service manager, and never having a family of my own, I always wanted to see the country. So one day in a fit of rage, I said, screw this. I'm going to go drive a truck. And 25 years ago, here we are, loving every minute of it. I've got my own truck and trailer, hauling around the Midwest primarily, and along the way, not until I was in my early 40s did I learn about dogs. And once I rescued my first dog, that's all it took. We're well over 12 or 13 now. So that's where we're at. We're just having fun. I'd like to bring some awareness to people that having dogs in the truck is fun. It's great. It's safe. Some tips maybe on how to do a good job of being a service human, as I call us, not an owner. And just, would like to offer my good times and my happy trails to you. And if I can help your days and weeks and years go by having a dog in the truck with you, then I'm here for it.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things, that I love so much is not only, are you a truck driver, but you kind of do what Larry and I do, where, if you're going to a certain area of the country, let's say New York, for example, you've got certain spots that you like to try to stop at and see, so you can kind of experience the country, which I think so many truckers they just go, 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 where, we kind of like to experience stuff and see things.
Yeah. I mean, as a matter of fact, when we get home, we can't wait to get in the camper and go back somewhere, because when we're passing through, sometimes we can't get in a parking lot, or we don't have time to go to dinner somewhere. I've met people all over the country. We've got some great friends that live in Utah, and we've stayed at their home for days on end. And it's a great way to not look at a cubicle, or to not be at a punch press, or to not be in a factory all day.
Absolutely. Is there a particular part of the country that is like your favorite area to drive?
Well, my favorite area to drive, like most of us, would be out west, where there's less stops, less traffic, more beautiful scenery, but at the same time, it's kind of more desolate. And as much as we all claim to not get along with others, we do like human interaction. As far as really, I do enjoy the Midwest the most, because you've just got so many different ethnic diversities. I mean, one day you could have Polish sausage at a Polish restaurant. The next day you could be at an Indian place, and the day after at a Thai restaurant. And then, of course, in the Midwest, we get the Four Seasons. I've been doing a dedicated run out of Muskegon, Michigan, so I will get to see, a few weeks ago, just before Christmas, the blizzards. But also you'll get the beautiful pine trees, and from time to time I'll take a route along Lake Michigan where I can actually see the lake. So I would say, Angie, my vote would be for the Midwest.
I agree. I'm from the Midwest, so I'm with you.
Yeah.
Well, so I know you got into dog rescuing, and you've been doing this for a while. What made you decide, you know what, I want to adopt a dog? Because you hadn't had a dog before then.
Well, do you really know why? Do you want to go down this road?
I think, it's up to you, but I think it's a good road for others.
Well, I'm okay with it, and I will tell everybody, although it starts out kind of dark, that I am willing to share and help anyone. But the day after Thanksgiving in 2000, I got tangled up in a fatality in Chicago. And although I was cleared of all charges, I went through a wrongful death lawsuit. Trust me, you don't want to go through that. And I couldn't sleep. I had issues. And a woman that I was friends with at a different trucking company, she suggested, Ron, get a dog. And I'm thinking, you've lost your mind. Slobber and hair, and no thank you. Don't want anything to do with it. But as the weeks went on, Angie, I said, you know what, I'll try anything. So I was living out near Rockford, Illinois, and a friend of mine said, Ron, just go to the shelter and just tell them you want to meet a dog, because I really had no exposure to dogs at all. And I went there, and I saw the posters about how dogs are being euthanized, 100 every second, and on and on. And this is in 2001 at the time. And I said, I filled out the application, and the woman says, well, we're sorry, but you don't qualify. I was like, really? I have a house, I can afford the dog food, and why not? She said, well, it's your lifestyle. And brokenhearted, I went home, and I talked to my friend, and he says, Ron, just go back and lie. And tell them it's for your little girls at home and your wife while you're gone. And I said, I don't believe in operating like that, and I believe we're all going to answer one day for how we live our lives, and I certainly don't want to go to hell over lying to a dog rescue place. But I went back, and I told her that same story. Oh, sir, come on in. You could adopt 2 dogs today. And I'm thinking, you gotta be kidding me. And I go in, and they got these little index cards on the little compartments. I don't even like to use words like cage. In the little compartment. And one had 1 day left before it was to be euthanized. And I had no idea what kind of dog it was. I learned later it was a pit lab mix. I didn't care. I opened up a little door, and I walked her around the area there, and we got back, and she just looked at me and said, take me home. And I did. And that was the start of it. I called her Fairlane because I always wanted a Ford Fairlane when I was younger, and drove me crazy. I mean, all of a sudden, I didn't sleep at night for a different reason. Now I didn't sleep because I was afraid she wanted to go to the bathroom, and I didn't want her peeing or pooping in my house. And and we got through it, and I started to really enjoy seeing the world through her eyes and having fun, and it didn't take but 5-6 months later, we were around Bloomington, Illinois, delivering a load, and there was a farmer chasing his really sickly-looking black lab down the farm road. And I said, what the hell are you doing? He said, I don't want the damn dog. Take it. If you don't take it, I'm going to shoot it. So we took it. And that was Henry. Henry, my second dog, just boom, like that, But he was sick. He had parasites, and it was nothing for me to wake up covered in diarrhea. And I remember Angie one day on the Indiana Toll Road waking up covered in diarrhea. And I said, if I clean it up, he's just going to do it again. And I went back to sleep, covered in it. But eventually the meds that my vet kept overnighting me as I continued to travel, eventually his health made a turn for the better, and he was with me 9 years, and the adopting continued. You there?
We may have lost her.
How'd we do that?
Well, okay, wait a minute. I think she's coming in. Here we go. All right, Angie, do we have you back? Hello, Angie.
Yes.
All right. I think she's back.
So sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. I got dropped.
That's okay. That's okay. So Henry was with me for years, and I'll always consider him to be my first son, my buddy.
Well, it's amazing how having an animal can just change your whole perspective in life, because now you have somebody else that depends on you, that relies on you, that needs you to care for them. It's just amazing how much it changes your life.
Well, you see, I actually have one of those pillows a friend bought me. It said, "My dog rescued me," and in reality, my dogs have rescued me.
Absolutely.
I'm very broken and I'm very flawed, and they forgive me. They look at me and they say, "Dad, you suck today, but we forgive you and we still love you."
Yes, that's the great thing about animals. They forgive us even when we're having a bad day,
Hey, even when they get in the little skirmishes, because my dogs are not small. I mean, I've got black labs and pits. My smallest dog is 65 pounds. So,
absolutely.
When they get at it with each other, a few hours later, Angie, they're laying on top of each other in bed, hanging out. They don't stay mad. They don't carry grudges.
No, they don't. We're going to take just a quick break here, Ronald, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Ronald a little bit more about his rescue work that he does while he's over the road as a truck driver. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. You're listening to Taillights with the Baums.
Truckers Life Radio from TFC Global with your host, Ron Frazier, every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. On the show, Ron interviews guests to help inform professional drivers just like you about the importance of things like human trafficking to sex addiction to how to overcome the impossible odds on the way to success. Every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
I'm Shelley Johnson with Kathy Tuccaro. You can hear us Tuesdays on TNCRadio.live at 8 p.m. Eastern on Women Road Warriors. And don't miss Steve Summers' Overnight Drive right here on TNCRadio.live, weeknights midnight to 5 a.m. Eastern. Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Welcome back, TNC Radio.live. This is Taillights with the Baums. Here's Angie.
Welcome back, everybody. I am Angie, and we were talking before the break with Ronald, and he was experienced adopting his first dog and then his second one, and we were talking about how awesome dogs or any type of animal is to have on the road. They just help out with the stress that we have to deal with out here, and you actually got yours at a perfect time because you had been through a pretty traumatic accident. Now, tell us a little bit about what would be your advice for someone who's interested in possibly getting a fur baby to take out on the road?
Well, first off, if you're on the road pretty much regularly, it's going to be a little tough. But I would highly suggest that before you get into a dog, go to a rescue, spend a few hours, volunteer, ask about maybe fostering a dog. Maybe they'll let you take a dog for a few weeks, or just keep an eye. A lot of rescues now, they don't want to have dogs in crates up and down the aisles. They want to have dogs in family homes. That, of course, would be the first and ideal way to do it. But definitely decide what kind of dog you want as far as what kind of size, what kind of temperament. And there's a lot of opportunities where you can rehome a dog. I'd be very cautious to get a dog on Craigslist or, to buy a dog from a breeder, because there's just so much evil in the inbreeding and the breeders. We call them greeters, because I actually have a pit with me that was overbred. She was so overbred that when we found her nipples were dragging the ground. And
that's so terrible.
Oh, yeah, for over 2 years, she wouldn't play with the others. She wouldn't do anything but eat and drink and pee and poop. So just try to meet people with dogs. First of all, of course, if you're a company driver, what dog will your company let you bring with? I know a wonderful lady who is friends with Angie, too, that her company lets her bring 2 pits with her. And not every company will do that. Not every company will let you have a dog over 30 or 40 pounds. And you got to decide in your life what place will that animal have. Because you got to take care of them. It's a life. It's a creature. They're going to have to eat and pee and poop. You're going to have to spend some time with them. which will really be good for you, especially at the end of a stressful day, just to sit in the bunk and talk to your dog or your cat. I know some women that have cats with them. I've got a friend of mine that I meet where I load all the time. He has a cat that rides with him, big, tough, burly guy. His cat runs that truck. Yeah, met a lady driver in Sacramento, California. She used to have 2 or 3 cats with her. She had the inside of her sleeper with climbing poles and, various things. But, the most important thing is you got to have a vet. You got to get the dogs checked out, make sure that they don't have heartworm, that they're healthy, that you have proper heartworm and flea and tick prevention. And this all might sound like a lot, but it really, any vet can help you out in an hour. You get a dog checked out. Have a dog. If you find a dog, try to get their microchip read. A lot of us have microchips in our animals. And, if there's not a microchip, we'll certainly get one. Tractor Supply even has vets on weekends where you can get very low-cost checkups and very low-cost shots. And then they also do microchips.
Yes,
it really
they do.
Depends on what regions you're in. I know, Angie, that you mentioned to people to check out in my site, Ronco Rescue Ranch, and you can reach out to us. You can watch the dogs. You don't have to join. If you want to make comments anonymously, you can do that. And depending what part of the country you're in, we could certainly help you to find rescues in your area. That'll help you find some dogs.
Absolutely. And Ronald's page is on Facebook, so be sure to check that out as well, and I'll be sure to mention that at the end of the show too. But one of the things I was going to ask you is when I know several people that have the pit bull breeds, and there's a lot of trucking companies that do not allow the pit bull breeds, and I think that's so awful. But have you ever had issues with your dogs getting along since you have all the rescues?
No, not. There's times they'll snarl at each other or something, but, who's the adult in the room? If you tolerate it, whether it's, human beings, dogs, cats, gorillas, your kids, if you tolerate, one of them getting in each other's face. And really, Angie, that pit bull term is so unfair because, first of all, there is really no pit bull breed. And there's just
because they're so mixed with everything.
Well, there really is no pit bull breed. There's no such thing. It's just a term that somebody came up with one day.
I didn't know that.
If you go back to when you and I were very young, the Little Rascals, they had a pit right there in the cartoons.
Right.
When we were in our high school years, we were watching Magnum P.I. and they had Rottweilers, and people used to think Rottweilers were evil. And then German Shepherds were evil, and like you mentioned today, so many dogs are just so mixed breed that where is there really a purebred dog anymore?
Absolutely. I was going to ask you, so often we go to the truck stops, and I can guarantee that you've seen this too, where we'll see so many stray animals where that's somebody's pet that they just dropped off in the parking lot. Have you ever rescued an animal that was in a parking lot where, you could tell that a trucker just dumped them?
Yeah, and I actually have a microchip reader with me, but what you really want to do is be cautious going up to them. Because, there's people that just let their dogs out. That's another one of my cardinal rules. Do not ever leave your dog off leash. Even if you're at home. You know what? Your dog's a dog. If there's a squirrel, your dog's going to chase it. And just because you think your dog's going to listen to you, or your dog's going to mind the electric fence, or your husband's going to mind that, or your wife is going to mind it, it's just it's animal nature. If something amuses you, if the amusement overtakes the common sense, and if your dog runs in front of a car, runs in front of a truck, and then gets hurt, gets killed, and then you're going to be mad at the person who ran over your dog or your cat, that's not right.
No, and we see it too often. That's my biggest pet peeve too. I have 3 dogs, and you will never see them off their leash unless they're in a secured, fenced-in area. Because I don't trust my dogs. You know, like you said, they see a squirrel, they're going to take off.
Yeah. And, you know, for God's sake, spay and neuter your dogs and cats. We have such an overpopulation. You know, I live in West Tennessee. We're putting down hundreds of dogs every week. Beautiful dogs. You know, in the next county, in my county, we don't even have animal control. We don't even have animal control.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? But yet in the next county, they have breed-specific legislation where they will actually confiscate your dog while you're at the Walmart. Euthanize your dog. You got nothing to say about it.
That's terrible.
It's crazy. But, you know, in the truck stops, I don't even like to walk my dogs in the truck stops. Sometimes you have to, but, you know, as they walk by the trucks, there's all these, you know, the air brakes, the air dryers, the various noises. Dogs are sensitive to all that.
Yeah, and a lot of times, no offense, but, you know, the truck stops are so dirty with trash, and I always worry about something getting into my dog's paws, you know, a piece of glass or something like that.
Well, or they walk through who knows what because people can't use a bathroom, and then they jump on your bed, and then you're laying in it.
Exactly.
You know, I always carry... Break time, go ahead.
I say, we're going to take just a quick break real quick. We're talking with Ronald from Ronco's Rescue Ranch. You can be sure to follow his page on Facebook. We'll be back in just a few minutes. You're listening to Taillights with the Baums.
For Courtney, and now for the Mental Health Minute. In part one of this video, I told you the very endearing story of the splinter in the middle toe of my right foot and how it was successfully removed. And to me, that's an excellent analogy for post-traumatic stress disorder. What do I mean by that? Well, the very same system that contains the toe also contains the mind. And our system doesn't like intruders like a splinter or like a trauma. Those things need to be removed. But very often, we don't remove them right away. After a trauma, instead of talking about it and dealing with it, we do our very best to bury it. In fact, one of the major symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder is avoidance. We do our best to not talk about it, not think about it, and do whatever we can to suppress the trauma. So what happens? With the toe, there was all this protective skin. Don't go near it because I'm going to protect it. And the mind does the same thing. Let's not go anywhere near it. You know, Vietnam veterans would say things to me like, I was in Vietnam and we don't talk about it. And what that does is keep the splinter embedded, continuing to give it power over the system. So what do we need to do? The splinter always needs to be removed. The trauma always needs to be dealt with. And that is to remember it, to feel it, to express it, and finally to release it. In my book, Keep Pain in the Past, I explain how we can deal with old, painful traumas and finally put them away for the first time and get on with our lives. Just like removing the splinter from my toe.
Ready for the power of positive and something that will put you back to a time you wanted to last forever? Music is the ultimate time machine. What was your favorite time? Do you want to go back there? LTD Radio features the songs of the 70s, 80s, and 90s that will transport you to a happier time. It'll make you smile and brighten your day. We could all use that about now. TNCRadio.live is proud to carry the great music of LTD Radio.
For the latest in traffic, weather, and information, catch the Morning Grind weekdays right here on TNCRadio.live. righty, welcome back
Welcome
to
back.
TNCRadio.live. This is Taillights with the Bombs, and this is Angie.
Welcome back, everybody. We've been talking tonight with my friend Ronald. He has a great Facebook page on Facebook called Ronco's Rescue Ranch, where you can follow his adventures with his rescues. Now, Ron, during the break, we kind of talked about the fact that, you have found homes for a lot of the dogs that you've rescued. What do you think has been the most memorable, dog that you've ever rescued that just really touched your heart?
In 2009, my good ex-wife and I lost our home in Illinois, and we moved to Tennessee. And I would, during the day, go to the storage unit. I had some heart issues, so I would go to our storage unit, and I would look for stuff to sell to want to be a viable member of my own family. And one day there's a guy barreling down this road in Tennessee, and I see his dog hanging out of the bed by its neck on a leash. So, for real, his feet scraping the ground. So I jump in my truck. My dog's already in my truck. And I literally race to chase this guy down. And in the meantime, I call my vet down there in Paris, Tennessee, and I notify them what I'm finding. And I literally pull him over, almost like a citizen's abduction or something. And I run right up to that dog, and I got my knife, and I cut the collar because this poor dog was hanging by its neck. And his hind paws are all bloody. And, oh, my God, I didn't know that, blah, blah, blah. And I tell him, I said, my vet right up the road, he knew who she was. Oh, I'll take her over right away. And he takes the dog up there and says he knew nothing about it. It wasn't his dog. I get there a little later, and I tell them, they knew what my side of the story was. Well, this poor dog, they named him Bootsy. How cute was that? But they called him Bootsy, and Bootsy was there for months, and later on, eventually, Bootsy ended up being a neighbor of mine's dog at the campground we were staying at. But part of me would like to have found that man, chased him down, and dragged him behind his pickup truck. But, what can we say? I constantly, where I live in West Tennessee, see people with their dogs on the back of their pickup trucks. I can't comprehend that. I see dogs out in the cold. I can't comprehend that. If I see a dog that's shivering out in the cold somewhere, honestly, I don't care if it's your dog. If your dog is outside freezing to death, I'm taking your dog. There's a dog that's on my porch, and I see him when I come home. I live out in the country, and when I come home, I see that dog on my porch. And one of these days, he and I are going to meet, and he's long gone. Because if you can't take care of your dog, you shouldn't have one.
Absolutely. I always say my dogs are like my children.
Well, the more people's kids I meet, the more I like my dogs.
Okay, that's funny. So I was going to say, not only are you a truck driver, but when you have your downtime, one of the things that you love to do is you love to go with the dogs and you love to go RVing. What are some of your favorite spots that you like to go to with your dogs?
Well, once again, back up to the Midwest, driving around Lake Michigan, the Great Lakes. For closer trips to us, we take a ride on over to Tunica, Mississippi. Not that we gamble, but we go over to the Tunica area. There's a great rescue there, the Tunica Humane Society, that one of my dogs is from. And last year, we took 10,000 pounds of dog food there to help feed the dogs of the poor folks in the Tunica area. Tunica is about an hour south of Memphis, if you don't know. And
yes, I do. I've been there.
Some of the folks that live in that area are just so incredibly poor. And my friend Sandy Williams that runs the rescue there, she takes care of a lot of vet bills for people. She'll do anything she can to help those dogs stay in their homes. Because if them people can't afford to feed their dogs, the dogs are just going to run loose.
Right. And it's so sad because there's so many families that, love their animals, but due to maybe financial circumstances or unexpected circumstances, an emergency arise, and unfortunately, the family dog is going to be the one that suffers because you got to, feed the kids first and take care of the household. So I always love it when rescues try to step in and try to keep that dog in the home and help offer those services, which is amazing.
Yep, absolutely. But the joy that I have had in taking 1,000 pounds of dog food to the rescue, and then people in that neighborhood coming to me and just in tears thanking me for a bag of dog food. Just the first time I did it in April, I just thought it was a one-off thing. And I met some of these people, and I says, I got to do 2,500 pounds. I got to do 5,000 pounds. And just before Thanksgiving, I added up my receipts, and I said, you know what? I'm going to hit 10,000 pounds. So I did it. To me, the greatest form of charity is to the least of God's creatures, be it, poor folks, handicapped people, sick people, dogs, cats. Because, face it, you can't take a bag of dog food and trade it for crack or a tattoo or whatever. Even if you throw that dog food out, wild animals are going to eat it. So, in my eyes, it's the perfect form of charity, and we're sure going to try to do that again this year.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I was going to say, I know you work with so many different rescue groups throughout the country, and you do a lot of volunteer work. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, just to be supportive of people. The compassion burnout in the rescue world is got to be just amazing. It's incredible. There's so many, for example, there's a rescue up in the Detroit area, cleverly named the Detroit Pit Crew Rescue. And these folks go out with local Detroit police, and they will take dogs that are chained to houses that have been abandoned, that are trapped in old houses, that are run over. And honestly, sadly, half of those dogs don't make it. But at least they know love for the last few hours or days. Or the ladies in Tunica are constantly crawling underneath flooded houses in the terrible neighborhoods, trying to pull out dogs. Puppies everywhere. Puppies like crazy. For God's sakes, if you have a dog or a cat and you can't afford to have them spayed or neutered, call me. Call me. If I can't find somebody to help you, I'll pay for it myself, because that dog's going to get pregnant.
And too many puppies all over because they can't get them spayed or neutered.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah. Oh. And, and we should, and I shouldn't say this, I usually say spay and neuter your pets, too.
Right.
You caught that? We got to spay and neuter some humans.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm sorry to go down that road.
Well,
but hey, be sure you pick up your poop. You know why? You can tell if your dog is sick in a minute by what you're picking up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Take a look at it. Is there worms in it? Is it runny? Is it bloody?
Well, I was going to ask you, what are some of the things that you think a truck driver should keep on their truck, if they're thinking about getting a dog, because there's a lot of things maybe a new owner who's a truck driver might not think of carrying. Like for us, we make sure we have baby wipes on the trucks to wipe their paws when they're getting in and out, because we don't know what they're stepping in out there.
Well, plenty of fresh water. My dogs all eat grain-free dry dog food, so I always have at least an extra week's worth, because you may not be able to get the brand that you're feeding your dogs, and if you haven't abruptly changed your dog's food, you don't know what diarrhea is. That can really be a mess. You certainly want to have some hydrogen peroxide with. A lot of people don't know this, but if you see your dog eat something that you don't think they should, be it chicken wings, which absolutely never should your dog be allowed to eat chicken bones, pizza or something in a truck stop. One of my dogs ate a bird a few years ago, and I brought her back to the truck, and I forced her to swallow hydrogen peroxide, which induces vomiting. And sure enough, a few minutes later, Tori threw up that bird, and then she threw up again, and it was maggots, and it was pretty gross. But by having the hydrogen peroxide with, you can force them to upchuck, to regurgitate.
That's really. Well, and that's good, too, because especially when you're on the road, sometimes getting to the vet's office can be a real chore. We're going to take, and then, yeah, I know. We're going to take another quick break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. You're listening to Taillights with the Baums.
Every 9 minutes, another commercial vehicle is rear-ended by a driver failing to control their speed. And guess who gets the blame? When you have to brake quickly, Tailbone illuminates a series of bright red LED lights that allow the driver behind you to react up to 50% faster. Using amazing accelerometer technology and a battery that will last for years, Tailbone meets the standard set by the NHTSA and the FMCSA. Learn more by visiting www.frontlane.com/tailbone. That's www.frontlane.com/tailbone. Approved in all 50 states. It's Tailbone by Frontlane.
This info blog on tncradio.live is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. Everything truck drivers need to know about sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is an issue that affects 1 out of 3 truck drivers. Truck drivers who drive tired may be unaware of how much their lack of sleep affects their driving. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration attributes 2.2% of all driving accident fatalities to drowsy driving. While there's not a law in place that requires truck drivers to get testing for sleep apnea, if you suspect you have sleep apnea, stay with us to learn more about sleep apnea and how it can affect truck drivers. What is sleep apnea? Sleep apnea is a potentially serious sleep disorder that causes you to have pauses in your breathing or take shallow breaths during sleep. It's an extremely common issue that affects millions of people in the United States. If you snore loudly during the night or still feel tired after a full night's rest, you might have sleep apnea. According to the Mayo Clinic, the main types of sleep apnea are obstructive sleep apnea, the more common form that occurs when throat muscles relax, central sleep apnea, which occurs when your brain doesn't send proper signals to the muscles that control breathing, complex sleep apnea syndrome, also known as treatment-emergent central sleep apnea, occurs when someone has both obstructive sleep apnea and central sleep apnea. Symptoms of sleep apnea. According to the Sleep Foundation, all 3 types of sleep apnea share certain common symptoms. Disrupting breathing in which a person's respiration can become labored or even stop for up to a minute at a time. Excessive daytime sleepiness, morning headaches, irritability, limited attention span, or difficulty thinking clearly. Many of these symptoms arise because of poor sleep and decreased oxygen levels that occur as a result of interrupted breathing. Some additional symptoms are connected to obstructive sleep apnea. Snoring, including snoring that's especially loud, and involves gasping, choking, or snorting that may cause a person to briefly wake up. Morning sore throat or dry mouth. Frequent need to wake up to urinate. Causes and treatment options for sleep apnea. Sleep apnea occurs when the airway becomes blocked while sleeping. Here are some common causes of an increase in airway blockage. Being overweight, sedative medication, alcohol, family history of sleep apnea, smoking cigarettes, sleeping on your back, nasal congestion. If you suspect you have sleep apnea, reach out to your doctor to get a treatment plan going. Avoiding treating your sleep apnea can result in losing the ability to operate a commercial motor vehicle. Most often, treatment plans will require you to have a CPAP machine in your truck. The CPAP machine helps pump oxygen to you while you sleep. In addition to using the CPAP machine, your doctor may recommend exercising, losing weight, or using different oral appliances that help hold open your airways. As a truck driver, it's crucial to take care of yourself because trucking is such a difficult and demanding job. At times, it can be challenging to take care of your health. Sleep apnea is a real issue in the trucking industry. We encourage all drivers to be aware of the symptoms and to get help if they suspect they have sleep apnea. This info blog was brought to you by the Truckers Network on app.thetruckersnetwork.net. catch Mind Your Trucking Business Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern with James Rogers, Jamie Irvine, and Tom Kelly. They provide expert advice about starting, operating, and growing a professional trucking business. It's Mind Your Trucking Business on tncradio.live.
I'm Shelley Johnson with Kathy Tuccaro. You can hear us Tuesdays on tncradio.live at 8 p.m. Eastern on Women Road Warriors. And don't miss Steve Summers' Overnight Drive right here on tncradio.live, weeknights midnight to 5 a.m. Eastern. Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Welcome back to Taillights with the Baums. I am your host, Angie, and we have been having our talk with a good friend of mine, Ronald. He has a Facebook page called Ronco's Rescue Ranch, where you can follow his journey and all the work that he does helping animals and finding them new homes and working with rescues. So, Ronald, we only got about 8 minutes or so, but we've been talking about all the wonderful work you've been doing and how good dogs are. What do you say? I mean, we talk about how they're such a good stress reliever and all that, but like if there was a trucker out there who's debating on, like you were a few years ago, debating on getting a dog, what would you say to him?
I definitely would go to a few rescues, just spend some time with some dogs, try to get as much information as you can, talk to other drivers that have dogs. Not everybody has as good a time as I do. Not everybody is as independent as I can be. My dogs are with me 24/7. Do they get on my nerves sometimes? Oh, yeah. I mean, when I'm home, I wish I could find a dog nanny, somebody to just come hang out with my dogs so that I could go to lunch. But everywhere I go, they're with me. And everything that I do in my life revolves around, I call them the bunkmates. Where I live, what I drive. When I bought myself a boat for my birthday last year, who goes on the boat with me? The 2 black lab boys. Do they have life jackets? Of course they do. Where are the others going to stay while I'm out on the water with those 2? You gotta always have a backup, and your backup's gotta have a backup.
That's so true.
In the event something happens to you, make sure on your phone in your emergency list you have somebody to call for your dogs. I have provisions with my vet. She'll have my dogs transported back to Paris, Tennessee, and she will take care of them.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And you got to do that for yourself, too, of course.
Right. I mean, that's one of my biggest fears is like, God forbid, what if Larry and I got into an accident? Who's going to take care of our dogs? Because those are our babies. And so that's always been my biggest concern. It's like, oh, what's going to happen?
I just hope, honestly, to live one day longer than my last dog does.
There you go. That's a great one.
For me, my dogs are all what I call throwaways, which they really are. I mean, let's be honest. In the South, black labs and pit bulls, if they weren't living with me, they'd be dead. Because for the most part, nobody wants them. They're the last dogs to get adopted. They're the last dogs to get rescued. They're the last dogs to receive help. And in my opinion, they're the best of them.
Oh, I can't agree with you more. I love the pits. I had a lab long time ago, the best dog I ever had, black lab. He was so pretty. But and it's so sad because now that you said that, I can remember when I go through the rescues and there always was lots of black labs, and I don't know why that is.
Well, I guess the same thing with cats. People are afraid of black cats.
Superstitions, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's crazy.
But if you think you need something in your life, I think you need a dog or a cat. I'm not a cat guy. That doesn't mean I don't appreciate cats or that, that I know many people who had them and love them. But if you think you want to get a dog, look into it. Please look into it. Your life will never be the same, and I guarantee you your life will be better for it.
Absolutely. I think That's one of the best things is, as trucking can be such a lonely job, especially when you're out here by yourself. And when you can get done at the end of the day and just climb up on your bed and be attacked by your dogs, and because they love you unconditionally, it's the best feeling in the whole world.
Well, you've seen guys playing catch with their ball at a shipper's parking lot or something, or, I could certainly lose some more weight. And honestly, if I didn't have to take my dogs out 3 times a day and bend over to pick them up, I'd be a lot heavier than I am. So it's good.
Right.
It's a good reason to get out and exercise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was just going to say, I was sitting here going through my head how much dog food that you have donated. That's incredible. 10,000 pounds of dog food to rescues. That's amazing.
Yep.
If only more people would do that.
So instead of buying fireworks on 4th of July, buy a bag of dog food. Take it to your local rescue. Instead of buying lotto tickets, buy a couple cans of cat food. Take it to your local rescue. And while you're there, ask them, say, hey, could I check out a dog? Could I just walk a dog? Could I go out in the yard and play with a dog? And if you're honest with yourself, at the end of the day, you're going to think, I got to go get me some loving.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great idea, Ron, because, how many times do dogs just sit there, waiting for that family? And a lot of times the only loving that they ever get is from the workers there, and sometimes they're so busy taking care of all the other dogs, that poor dog or cat may have to sit in that kennel forever. So what a great idea to encourage somebody to go in there and play with them.
Yeah. Or check in at your local police station or fire station. They always know dogs that are abandoned or dogs that need a home.
Oh, that's a great idea, too. I never really even thought about that. And I wanted to give you a chance, too, to tell everybody a little bit more about your Facebook page, because one of the things you did mention earlier was that if somebody's looking for a possible animal, that your group might be able to help them out, depending on where they're at.
Well, Ronco, RONCO, Rescue Ranch, that's my page. There's over 500 followers or members or whatever they're called. I'm not by any means a tech guy, but some of the rescues that I follow will post there from time to time. I try to always post a few times a day. Some of the people will post things that are important to them. I'm a pit and black lab guy. Somebody else might be a Chihuahua lover. There's some women that are cat lovers. And if you have any best policies or any best practices, like, what to do in the cold weather, how to keep your dog warm, how to keep your dog from getting fleas, anybody can post. You do not have to be a member. You do not have to be you don't have to be a member. You can post anonymously. Please take a look, and if you think you want to do this, please call me. Please message me, find me. It's not that hard.
No, absolutely. That's so awesome. Ron, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on our show, and we definitely are going to have you back very shortly. And I do want to remind everybody, coming up next, we do have Anderson and Baker with Clutch Time Sports. So if you are a sports fan, you're definitely going to want to stick around. These guys are awesome. We've been listening to them forever, and Larry, he's a big sports fan, so he loves them. And don't forget that you can catch Larry and I on Facebook as well. We are Married to the Road and also on TikTok. And Ron, again, I just want to thank you again so much. You are a great guest.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you. And my dogs, whatever opinion you have of me, I'm just trying to live up to the guy my dogs think I am.
Oh, that's great. I love that. You need to put that in their shirts.
Safe travels, everybody. I wish you all a safe and uneventful day, because really that's all we can hope for.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ron. And guys, don't forget, be sure to come back next Wednesday listening to Taillights for the Bomb. And don't forget, tomorrow night, Charlie Claiborne has his show, Highway Fever, at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. So be sure and stick around tomorrow night for Charlie's show. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday. Have a great week, everybody.